Move.
Sorry, did I back up there?
You just picked 2 minutes.
We got 2.
Oh, I thought it was second.
I looked at that clock, which was a mistake. County clock, you know. So how is it?
You got David to stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah. No one was here. Yeah, it's all good.
Jim says that's how I'm standing.
20
Now
seconds.
we got off. Here I'm early for one. Huh?
Stretch out. Don't pull a hamstring.
Help my foot, I'd be happy.
Good evening. The Monday, July 9th, 2018 Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by the official City Council Minister, Amy Holtally of Hope Ministries, South Bend.
Okay, everyone, pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we pray that you would grant wisdom to our City Council this evening. We ask you to guide them as they make decisions and work for the welfare of South Bend. We pray that you would bless our mayor and all of his staff, our police force, and our school corporation. We ask for safety and for an end to gun violence and crime in our city. We pray that you would provide safe housing for our residents who are dealing with homelessness, and we ask you to increase the economic welfare of our city. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. I ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phones to silent. Ms. Fowler, when you're ready, roll call.
Councilmember Preston? Here. Councilmember McBride? Present. Councilmember Rowland? Here. Councilmember Teska?
Here.
Vice President Davis? Excused absence. Councilmember Gordy?
Here.
Councilmember Burley?
Here.
Councilmember White?
Present.
President Scott?
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. Report of subcommittee minutes, please.
To the Common Council, the subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the June 11th, 2018 and June 25th, 2018 meeting of the Common Council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to accept?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Ms. Fowler, special business, please.
Special business. A special resolution honoring former 5th District Council member, Dr. David Barner.
Thank you. My name is Tim Scott, 711 Forest Avenue, South Bend, Indiana. I have a resolution here, 1833, or Bill 1833, Resolution 472418, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, commemorating and honoring Dr. Dave Barner and his retirement after the many years as member of South Bend Common Council. Whereas, after Dr. Dave avoided all unnecessary attention during his years as member of South Bend Common Council, representing the residents of the 5th District, there are many questions that need to be answered about Dr. Dave's tenure as a councilman. And whereas the Common Council wishes to answer those questions for the current and future residents to solidify Dr. Dave's rightful place in history in South Bend. And whereas the answers to the question of how long Dr. Dave served on Common Council is 22 years and 5 months. And whereas the answer to the question of how many council members served with Dr. Dave during his tenure is 30, including 2 Brodens 2 Furlicks, 2 Kellys, and 2 unrelated Davises, and I'll add lib 1 unique council member, Scott. Whereas the unique question of how many fellow Republicans served on the Common Council during Dr. Varner's tenure is, please don't ask. And whereas the answer to the question of how many council member committees Dr. Varner has chaired during his tenure is 7, including Public Works, Property Vacation, Zoning and Annexation, Information and Technology, which he was the first chairman when technology was an abacus and a chalkboard, Personnel and Finance, Utilities, and Council Rules Committees. Whereas the answer to the question of what is Dr. Varner's fiscal philosophy is financially responsibility, and whereas the answer to the question of what other civic organizations Dr. Varner has been involved in is too many to list. But among them are South Bend Redevelopment Commission, Century Center Board of Managers, and the Board of Finance, and MACOG. And whereas answered the question to answer the question of how Dr. Varner, a Republican, continued to be reelected in overwhelming Democratic city of South Bend is partisan politics never took priority over what was in the best interest of South Bend residents. And whereas the answer to the question of how several council members referred to Dr. Dave over the years is my favorite Republican, and I will attest to that one as well. Whereas the answer to the question of the council can forgive Dr. Varner for his decision to retire, Dr. Varner and his wife Hetty deserve to spend more time together. Whereas the answer to the question whether the council will miss Dr. Varner's quiet leadership and thoughtful analysis, respectful attitude, and friendship as council members is absolutely. Therefore, let it resolve to the committee by the Common Council of the City of South Bend as follows. Section 1, South Bend Common Council proudly commemorates and honors Dr. David Varner on his retirement from the South Bend Common Council after more than 22 years of unselfish service. Section 2, the Common Council wishes Dr. Varner and Patty very much happiness and embark in the future endeavors. Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effective from and after adoption of the Common Council and approval by the mayor. So, thank you, Dave. Dr. Dave, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you all for the recognition. After hearing the resolution, I'd have to say after 22 and a half years, you finally figured me out completely. I do think that the important thing, and I think South Bend has demonstrated as we look at issues we have to deal with, there will always be issues, there will always be problems, there will always be reason to disagree, but I think collectively, those 30 council members, including myself, all found a way to do it respectfully and collegially. And I think that goes a long way to present a good face to the city of South Bend when there are businessmen in the audience, business persons, when there are folks who are visiting the city for the first time, if they see a council that doesn't necessarily agree on everything, but can find a way to resolve the problems. It speaks very well to the city, and I hope that all of you are able to do that. A little story out of two. Jake, if you ever want to know what you need to do well, Tim Scott's wife had some good advice for him, and I'm sure he'll relay it to you at a later date. And that advice will serve you well because I think it speaks intrinsically to the subject. So thank you all for the camaraderie, for the friendship, for the work, for the help we've done over the years, and to the extent I can help, and of course Jake already knows this, I'll be happy to jump in with both feet and help wherever I can. Thank you. She's why we have 3 grandchildren ready to walk around. Which is one of the reasons, being able to go to Erie, Pennsylvania on Thursday night instead of Friday and come back on Monday, made it a lot easier, made the decision of difficulty easier, so we're able to do that.
And though he retired to spend more time with me, I have yet to see him.
We can write an ordinance.
Okay.
Don't use government to fix that.
It won't cost a thing. At this point, we'll turn it back to council for comment. We'll start with the 2nd District.
Dr. Varner, I've said it before, never put off what you can do today for tomorrow. I spent the last 2.5 years meaning to call you, meaning to get your wisdom and advice. You're the one everyone turned to say, talk to that guy. And so I still look forward to your serving with the Redevelopment Commission for the remainder of this term. We really appreciate 22 years. I mean, you're a big part of what makes South Bend so great. That kind of service to us for that long, we really owe a debt. So I want to thank you. You will be missed. We still love you, Jake. But you
I would like to say, Dr. Varner, again, congratulations. I wish you well. I hope that I had an opportunity to serve with you longer, but I appreciate you embracing me coming on as the rookie, well, not any longer, of the council, and I thank you for your wisdom and your guidance of our short stay, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Sharon.
I'll be brief, Dave. You'll appreciate that. Really appreciate, though, your door was never closed. You've always had a hello and a goodbye. You've always understood any issue that came before this council, frontwards and backwards, and always with the utmost respect and kindness to the petitioners as well as to us as your colleague. Those are all very small but big things, so that I'm deeply appreciative to you for. And you really have served your district and your community well, and I think foremost in my mind will be your fiscal responsibility, a legacy of that, a legacy of growth for our city. And those are really two amazing things that go hand in hand. And I know, too, that time here is always time away from your other loves and your other interests, which you have many. And so I'm hoping that these next months, above all, will be a time to rekindle and to rediscover those interests, but above all, a time of great joy for you and your family. So thank you very much for your amazing run, and best wishes.
Thank you. First off, Dave, thank you on behalf of the residents of the 5th District for your honorable service on this council and beyond. I mean, and everything that you've done for our city and for people who've needed you, whether it's through your dental practice, whether through your work in a clinic, or through the various positions on boards and that you've sat on. Thank you. Your thoughtful representation has been appreciated by your neighbors on the city's far southeast side. And after being caucused into this seat, I knew that I had big shoes to fill. I must admit I didn't know exactly how big they were until I got here. This is an amazing group of individuals that I'm happy to work with. And I think I've heard from each member on this council, and maybe every member from the clerk staff, that Dave was their favorite council person, even if in secret. And maybe they haven't said the favorite Republican, but maybe that's just not to my face. But your technical knowledge on things such as the combined sewage overflow issue, TIF districts, things like that, are invaluable. And I'm looking forward to continuing to lean on you for your wisdom and your counsel and advice as we move through this. Like I said, I've heard over and over again about how great Dr. Dave was and how people are going to miss your leadership. And those sentiments have been echoed in my meetings with department heads and folks around this building and beyond. And so now I'm kind of wondering what I've gotten myself into, right? And it's like when your girlfriend won't quit talking about her ex. But seriously, the way in which you are unanimously respected and, dare I say, loved here in this building and again beyond speaks volumes to your passion for our community, your heart for people, and your ability to see beyond party lines, as has been noted here tonight, and create genuine, lasting relationships. I've appreciated getting to know you. I've appreciated your friendship over the years. I know that I'll never fully be able to fill your shoes, so I've decided to just let you wear them because they look better on you anyway. So thank you. Thank you from the 5th.
Thank you.
Gosh, that was good. Yeah, you might be okay too. I had the good fortune of sitting in Karima's seat as city clerk for 12 years and observing the council's work, the questions back and forth, the cooperation for the most part with the administration, the putting together of the budget, and the good questions and points of view and priorities that Dave always voiced. I think you made South Bend a better place, the council a better body, and just an all-around, it made me a better public servant, I think, just by observation and trying to emulate the way you carried yourself and some of the ways that you thought and questions you asked and things like that. So it's been a privilege to know you. I might be one of the only folks up here who also knew your dad.
Dad's still around.
Yeah, I know. He's down in Florida. Still driving, last I heard.
Yeah.
And he was a well-respected local businessman, and you're a credit to that legacy. So congratulations. I hope you enjoy the future, and hope to see you down in Bloomington for a game or two at some point.
No, Dr. Varner, thank you so much for your service to the city. With regard to the council, thank you for your professionalism and just the amount of respect you brought to the city on a daily basis. Biggest thank you, though, most importantly, just I've learned a lot from you. So thank you for that.
Dr. Varner, what can I say? I've had the privilege of working with you for 19 years. I've learned so much. Your passion, your commitment to a level of excellence, and to ensure that we would do the very best that we can with the dollars that we have for this community. And I was speaking with you a little bit earlier, and we were talking about redevelopment, and you said my passion. And that is very, very clear. Your passion, your knowledge, your professionalism, and your ability to work with individuals and be respectful at the same time is just unbelievable. And retirement is great, but you must learn to say no. Okay. Again, we're going to miss you, and thank you again for your many years of service and your commitment to our citizens, but most importantly, your commitment to the work that we've been elected to do.
Thank you.
So finally, Jake, the breakup is still fresh, so we'll get past that. Dave, thank you so much. Again, I've learned a lot from you. Absolutely appreciated us going to dinner just about every other Monday. So that was great. Professionalism is beyond belief. And you and I haven't agreed on everything. We agreed on a lot of stuff, which is interesting. But it was always respect from me and from you on what we didn't agree on. And we need more of that. We need more of that throughout this country and throughout this city. So what Dave was referring to, I hope what he was referring to from my wife was, I remember when Dave first got on council, and my wife and I, the politics in the city of South Bend was always of interest to us, but pretty much in the background. And it was in the 90s. And Dave was actually being interviewed. It was right after, it was after a city council meeting. He was sitting up there. We both stopped and really took in, a lot of times when Dave was being interviewed by TV was, just the straight to the point, common sense response that you were getting. It wasn't anything political. It wasn't, dodging the question. It was straightforward, and we both took notes to that back in the 90s. We've always noticed that because, kind of Dave being the lone Republican, he was questioning why, and I do that a lot still. Either here or with my company that I work for, is question why are we doing what we're doing. And that's one thing that you and I agreed upon, and we asked that question quite a bit, so I appreciate that. When I decided to run and won the primary, the first thing my wife said to me is like, all right, you saw Dave Varner, watch him do what he does. And
Just that simple, Jake.
It was that simple. So, Jake, you need a refresher from my wife. She's good to give you good advice too. So, but yeah, and when I came on council, that was one thing that I definitely did. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much. We got a little bit more to go, just a little bit. So we'll open up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of this, please come to the podium.
All right. So what I would say about Dr. Varner, council aside and political affiliation aside, I thank Dr. Varner for being an exemplary example to all mankind. The two things that sticks out to me the most about Dr. Varner is silence. You can move in silence and get a lot done. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room. The second thing, Dr. Varner has never changed. From the time I walked into the office 10 years ago, he's been the exact same individual. He embraced me then. We've had 2 different administrations of council members. A lot has gone on, and Dr. Varner has remained the same. I thank you, Dr. Varner, for your service and your leadership.
Thanks.
Sue Kessel, 4022 Kennedy Drive. Dr. Varner is in my district, so as a citizen, I'd like to say I think he's represented us very well. I've been observing and part of the council as a citizen advocate for about 3 years now. And one of the things I appreciated most about Dr. Varner is because of his depth of experience, he always knew great questions to ask. And he always had great background and insight. And I think that's going to be very missed. I know we still have our historian, John Bordy. I think between John and Dave, it really gave us a lot of perspective, and that seniority was really valuable. He'll be missed in the 5th District, I can tell you that, because I'm from there, so I wish him well in his travels and seeing his grandkids.
Jason Medicki, Criswell, 3822 West 4th Street. I've been coming here for years to talk, and I typically would be somebody who would identify as a Democrat, but I always appreciated what David had to say. And believe it or not, more often than not, when it came to city financial issues, we aligned more closely than you would think from a Democrat or Republican. Because I always appreciated his concept of fiscal conservacy. Because when you're in a city, you have to, pennies are tight. The budgets are only getting tighter every year, and the demands are great. So I always appreciated the time he took to listen to us, to answer questions from us and the public, and just the point of view he brought on saying, maybe we don't need this, or maybe we can not spend money here, or we don't need a TIF district there. So I hope that, as we go forward, we can remember some of that and keep our spending in control and think when we make decisions, what would Dave Varner do? So thank you for your years of service.
Amen, sir.
David Varner. Address is Henry Davis Jr., 5117 Idlewood Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46619. I didn't come here to speak on behalf of Dave Varner today. It just happened to be to play out today this way, and I'm glad that I did come because I think Dave is an honorable person. I served on the South Bend City Council with him for about 8 years, I think it is. I think we spent some time on redevelopment as well together. And Dave is a man. He's a person. He's a human being. And he understands how to govern. I appreciated the time I spent with Dave, and I learned quite a bit. He even had a Cadillac like mine as well, so I knew that he understood what it was like to, but it was just a little bit newer, but well, it was just some things there that was similar from a younger black male sitting down with an older white gentleman. There was a lot of things that were similar there. I think our voting records are probably almost identical with city council as well. So, again, like I said, I appreciated his time. I value his time here. The city is in a better place because of people like Dave Varner. And I implore the council at any opportunity to re-engage people with that type of political knowledge back into the system, whether they're able to serve on commissions or boards or what have you, because the time is obviously smaller. It's a lot less of a responsibility, but you just can't push that type of capital away and then try to figure out how to make it up later on. So I would implore the council, if there was any opportunity in the future, that this man that stands behind me with his beautiful wife, to allow that to happen, because that's only how the city can continue to grow. You just can't keep taking off from point one or ground floor and think you're growing. Keep him involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. Doc Varner, I thank you for everything you've done. You've always maintained your feet on the ground, not only with the council, but with anything in the community. When the call went out for poll workers, he stepped up. Anything anybody's ever needed, Doc Varner's been there. I won't say you're my favorite Republican, but you're tied for first. I just thank you for everything you've done, not only on the council, but just as a person, for taking the time to say hi. Thank you. If somebody had a question, you answered it. You didn't blow off the citizens. You listened to us. We're going to miss you.
We have two more public speakers. I'll start with Commissioner and President Andy Costelli from St. Joseph County. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Andy Costelli, President of St. Joseph County Board of Commissioners, office on the 7th floor of this building. It's my honor to be here tonight as we recognize former council member, Dr. David Varner. He began his service on the South Bend Common Council on January 1st, 1996, representing the 5th District of South Bend. Throughout his 22 years on the council, now oftentimes a political career will make you want to drink, but not often will your career be old enough to drink. I think that's pretty impressive that Dr. Varner has been important that long. He served on a number of committees and chaired them as well: Public Works, Personnel and Finance, Zoning and Annexation. He also served on the Century Center Board of Managers, the South Bend Redevelopment Commission, and was the council's representative to MACOG. In his private life, Dr. Varner owned and operated the Ireland Road Dental Office, and since semi-retired from dentistry. Currently, Dr. Varner can still be seen filling in for dentists throughout the region. Dr. Varner is the embodiment of a true public servant, and the community is a better place because of his efforts. It's been mentioned, and I'm going to mention it again. The thing I will always remember about Dr. Varner is you wouldn't always agree with him, but you would always respect him. His position was always well thought out, well articulated, and once again, agreement does not necessarily mean that you can't have civil discourse. So that's what I've always was most impressed by Dr. Varner, just the way he handled every situation that he ever came into. So upon the occasion of his retirement, I am pleased to present this key to the county on behalf of the Board of Commissioners to Dr. Varner and extend our best wishes to him in all his future endeavors.
Ruins the surprise. That's your speech. That's your speech, good.
Thank you, Commissioner. One more is the mayor of South Bend.
Good evening. First of all, I don't want to miss the chance to welcome Councilmember Teschka. Looking for, I know tonight's the night where you're just being reminded how big the shoes are that you have to fill them. Very much looking forward to spending some time, I believe soon, with you and Dr. Varner to learn more about your priorities and talk about how we can work together. Serving on this council is a vital and often a thankless job, and we have had as good a model as anyone in Dr. Varner. And so I don't want to repeat what has been said already, but would just mention a couple of things to put an accent on them. One, that there really is a model for how bipartisan spirit might work here. Much has been said already about how it's been possible with Dr. Varner to come from different viewpoints and be agreeable, but I think it bears mention also that that did not come by him being any less steadfast in his philosophy or his conservative viewpoint, but rather that when people come to the same issue from different viewpoints in good faith and care about the city, it shows. And I think that is a model that a lot of us can follow, and that we all sincerely wish there were more of at other levels of government. The second thing I would mention, there were so many issue areas and areas of expertise on Dr. Varner's part that were mentioned, but one in particular that I always like to applaud because it's the sort of thing for which mayors, I think rightly, would rush to try to accept credit because we're proud of our administration's role in it, but it is the fiscal standing of the city. For all the challenges and budget season's coming up, and I'm not saying we've got lots of money to spend on whatever we like, but it is so rare for a city of our makeup to have the kind of bond rating or the kind of fiscal strength that it does, especially a city of our economic statistics. And while, again, we like to point it out as an administration, the reality is that's been true for quite some time, and I doubt there is anyone who deserves as much credit for that as Councilmember Varner, who through the years, not only by his votes, but also by the questions that he's asked and the respect that he has commanded while raising certain issues, I think forcing all of us on both sides of this room to make sure that we had sharpened our pencils and our wits whenever we were proposing an idea, that's something that will serve the city well for a generation to come and more. So just one formality. I've already, last time when Dr. Varner shocked us with his announcement, paid him the rarest and highest compliment of which I'm capable as a politician, which was to acknowledge that there have been some important moments in which he was right and I was wrong. Now I'll add to that the highest honor that I'm empowered to confer as mayor, and I hope you'll join me in congratulating him on a very richly deserved key to the city, and thanking Mrs. Varner for sharing them with us while he was earning that honor.
So can I make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. As transparency and democracy would work, we have to ask anybody who wants to speak against this resolution. Seeing none, now we'll turn it back to council.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the acclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure you're good.
Okay. Just one little announcement. If anybody wants to, Dave, if you got time to hang out, a little reception in the clerk's office. If anybody wants to give Dave any best wishes and farewells. So we'll go ahead and do the council meeting, and anybody wants to go see Dave in the clerk's office, they will.
Yeah, good.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
I know what's going to happen.
Thank you all. What are you going to do when I retire?
Okay. This time, we do not have any reports from city offices. I entertain a motion to rise to the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes per ordinance. With that, would the city clerk please read 2318?
2318, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the South Bend Municipal Code, Chapter 17, Article 2, Division 3, Section 17-8F, to revise local retreatment standards for the city's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit.
Is there a committee report?
This comes to the full council with a favorable recommendation from the Utilities Committee.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Al Creek Utility Director of the 4304 Hunter Run Circle, South Bend, Indiana. And I'm filling some big shoes tonight. Eric Corvallis out of town. He asked me to make sure we got presented well. So what you have before you is a ask for a change in our ordinance. And this came about with a year study. What happens is every 5 years we are requested by our permit to review the ordinance levels in our sewage ordinance to make sure that they're stringent enough to protect citizens, the wastewater treatment plant, the resulting sludge that would come out of that, and also the clean waters that would go into the receiving stream. This has been a major undertaking. Lots of data has been looked at. It's gone back and forth to EPA, lots of questions. They gave us a temporary approval. We got a public notice. It's been through public notice procedure, and now it's ready for your approval. So,
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion to send 2318 to the full council favorable.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 2818?
2818, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana, for the year of 2018.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting, public hearing on this bill. We sent it to you with a favorable recommendation.
Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. Before you tonight, you have our request for transfers, budget transfers for the second quarter. This is simply moving things within the budget between effectively supplies and services. The first page here is just cleaning up different accounts within the Morris and the Palais, and those were the biggest ones, just accounting cleanup really. And then the rest of them were very small. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions on those.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to send 2818 to the full council favorably.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 2918?
2918, Public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2018 of $670,188 from the General Fund 101, minus $135,888 from the Park and Rec Fund 201, $6,000 from the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund 203, $123,669 from the Recreation Non-Reverting Fund 203, $2,733 from the Gift Donation Request Fund 217, $25,425 from the Liability Insurance Premium Reserve Fund 226, $330,000 from the Local Roads and Street Funds 251, $100,000 from the Lowit 2016 Special Distribution Fund Number 257, $595,304 from the 2017 Park Bonds Fund Service 312, minus $626,300 and $200 from the Hall of Fame Debt Service Fund 313, $275,000 from the County Option Tax 401, $25,000 from Parks Non-Reverting Capital Fund 405, $146,000 and $250 from the Economic Development Tax number 408, $74,600 from the Morris Capital Improvement Fund number 416, and $1,867,115 from the Equipment/Vehicle Leasing Fund number 750.
Thank you. Could I entertain a motion to accept the substitute?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on Substitute Bill 29-18, presented to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. Before you tonight, you have additional appropriation requests for our civil city funds. The first half of the page is basically just for the AmeriCorps grant that we learned that we were awarded recently. That was for $366,000. There are some negatives in there, but again, that goes back to the transfer one. We're just trying to clean up some accounting things, so we are reducing some budgets there. We're spending some NDOT funds that we received in our local road and street account, and in our 312 and 313 accounts, we had originally budgeted all of our debt payments out of one account, and now we're moving some debt payments into Fund 312, which is for our new parks bond. And then the very last one for the $1.7 million is requesting to appropriate the lease funds that we received to buy various vehicles throughout the year.
Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Send 2918 to the full council favorable.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 3018?
3018, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2018 of $311,276 from the EMS Capital Fund, number 287, $219,930 from the Sewage Works Operating Fund, 641, $150 from the 2011 Sewer Bond Fund, number 659, and $7,500 from the 2002 Sewer Bond Fund, number 661.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Personnel and Finance Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on this bill. We sent it to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Jen Hockenhall, City Controller, offices on the 12th floor of this building. Before you, you have a request for enterprise funds. The first two are related to EMS for an ambulance rebuild and also for an insurance reimbursement that we received that we're paying back to the insurance fund. We have $219,000 that we received in system development charges that we're moving from an operating fund into a capital fund to fund what we have paid out. And the other two are just small requests to close out funds.
Thanks so much. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to send 3018 to the full council favorably.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Keep you there. Thank you, John. Full council's now back in session. Ms. Fowler, would you please give third reading to 2318?
2318, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending the South Bend Municipal Code at Chapter 17, Article 2, Division 3, Section 17-8F, to revise local pre-treatment standards for the city's National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits.
Motion for passage?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call. I'm out of whack. I've been on vacation. I apologize.
Don't do it that way.
It's quicker that way. Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember Preston. Aye. Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Roden.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
President Scott.
For the record, aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 2818, please.
2818, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana, for the year of 2018.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Roden.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston. Aye. President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 2918, please.
2918, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city service operations in 2018 of $670,188 from the General Fund 101, minus $135,887 from the Parks and Recreation Fund 201, $6,000 from the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund 202, $123,769 from the Recreation Non-Reverting Fund 203, minus $2,733 from the Gift Donation Bequest Fund number 217, $25,425 from the Liability Insurance Premium Reserve Fund 226, $330,000 from the Local Roads and Streets Fund 251, $100,000 from the Lowit 2016 Special Distributions Fund 257, $595,304 from the 2017 Park Bonds Debt Service Fund 312, minus $600,226,302 from the Hall of Fame Debt Service Fund 313, $275,000 from the County Option Tax Fund number 401, $25,000 from the Park Non-Reverting Capital Fund number 405, $146,250 from the Economic Development Income Tax Fund number 408, $74,600 from the Morris Capital Improvement Fund 416, and $1,867,115 from the Equipment Leasing Fund number 750.
A motion to amend as it was in the committee of the whole.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion for passage?
Second. Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Roden.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 3018, please.
3018, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations in 2018 of $311,276 from the EMS Capital Fund number 287, $219,930 from the Sewage Works Operating Fund number 641, $150 from the 2011 Sewer Bond Fund number 655, and $700,500 from the 2012 Sewer Bond Fund number 661.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubin.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Move to resolutions. Can I entertain a motion for 1826 to continue to 723?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now we'll turn to 1828, Ms. Fowler.
1828, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, in support of the City Engagement and Empowerment Team application to the Cities of Services Love Your Block grant opportunity for the Leading in Neighborhood Connection Program.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the Residential Neighborhood Committee held a committee meeting and public hearing on 1828. We send this bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Council. My name is Alkina Aldridge with offices on the 14th floor. I'm really excited to be before you tonight to present this opportunity. As you know, government is being asked to do more than the basics, and in my new role, we're asking private partners to do more. And I think we all have a lot to learn from what residents are already doing in that regard. And so this grant opportunity is specifically related to resident-driven programs or projects that speak to blight elimination in cities. So it's a national program. What we're looking to do is replicate that here and localize it a little bit, and Regina can speak to this a little more as well. What we learned from a West Side neighborhood meeting, as I was presenting about what we're looking forward to do in neighborhoods throughout the next few years, it's just not enough, right? And that came across pretty clearly. And, the issues are really big, and we're a small community with finite amount of resources, and the resident response to that loud and clear was, if the city can't do it, we'll do it ourselves. And so this grant opportunity is saying, what are residents already doing that the city can look to scale up and support and learn? So LINK is named and formed by West Side residents. It's really a program that teaches residents to do small-scale rehab and repairs on their homes so that we can preserve the housing stock that is remaining in many of the neighborhoods that have been impacted by our blight elimination program, and to really kind of honor and recognize the legacy residents that are there and scale up what they're doing across the city. So it's a citywide project. We're looking to hopefully win $25,000. If we do win, we'll come back to you and ask for a match so that we can do it big across the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Nope. Thank you, Alkina. We'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1828, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1828, please come to the podium. Seeing none, back to council.
Motion for adoption?
Second. Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Gordy.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubin.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 1829, please.
1829, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend designating that certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as 902 North Allen, 1145 North Brookfield, 1306 North Brookfield, 914 North Cleveland, 903 North College, 917 North Elmer, 1101 North Elmer, 1229 North Elmer, 1129 North Huey, 1110 North Johnson, 749 North Lawndale, 913 North Lawndale, 1138 North Olive, 1530 Van Buren, as a residential distressed area for purposes of a 5-year residential real property tax abatement for historic Lincoln Way West Homes LP.
Thank you. Is there a presenter? Oh, I'm sorry. Committee report.
That's okay. Community investment met, and due to a lack of quorum, we send this forward with no recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Oh, yeah. For purposes of public hearing, could I make a motion to hear 1829 and 1830 together?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Alkeen, or, no, that's one over there. Ms. Fowler, would you please read 1830?
1830, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend designating certain areas within the City of South Bend, Indiana, commonly known as the South Bend Brewery Place, an economic revitalization area for purposes of a 10-year real property tax abatement for historic Lincoln Way West Homes LP.
Thank you.
And Community Investment also sends this forward with no recommendation due to lack of quorum.
Thank you. Presenter, name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Dan Buckenmeyer, Director of Business Development in DCI, 14th floor of this building. So, Department of Community Investment regularly supports local and national developers in applying for tax credit assistance on affordable housing projects that are done through the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority and other funding sources. Historic Lincoln Way West Homes is putting forth such an application. It has two elements that you did both readings. I'll explain that briefly. That the brewery, which is pictured up here, constitutes kind of one half of the project, if you will. That requires a designation as an economic revitalization area, a typical real property tax abatement that we do all the time. And then the single-family homes, 14 new single-family homes that are part of the same project, but a separate tax abatement because it's classified in our ordinances as a residential tax abatement or residentially distressed area designation. So, very briefly, this affects Lincoln Way West. The address of this property specifically is 1636 Lincoln Way West. The properties of the single-family homes surround that general area, north and a few south of Lincoln Way West. So we're excited to bring this and support this project on the west side. It will be supported by these proposed tax abatements as well as $1 million in TIF funding as well. The first element, the brewery, the project cost for revitalizing this building and bringing it up to a point of an output of having 22 apartments. The tax abatement proposed is a 10-year tax abatement that will be a tax phase-in. Over that period of time, there would be $537,578 in taxes abated, but $126,942 in taxes would be paid in that 10-year period through the abatement. The second element, or these single-family homes, there are 14 single-family homes. The projected project cost is $3.8 million to build those on existing empty lots throughout that area, as I described. For these, we are asking for a 5-year residential tax abatement at 100% for all 5 years. Taxes abated during that period are estimated at $66,982. Taxes paid during that period would be estimated at about $37,918. Ann Mannix is here from Historic Lincoln Way West Homes, can give you a little further description of the project and answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions right now for the presenter? Nope, all right. Ms. Mannix, if you would, please, name and address and tell us a little bit about it.
My name is Ann Mannix. I live at 724 West Washington. This development is being developed by a team. I'm working on it, South Bend Heritage, Keel Architecture. We have bankers, accountants, and funding partners, which we hope the city is one. The sites, the previous speaker spoke about those. This is an outgrowth of the Main Street Corridor Plan and the 1,000 houses in 1,000 days. We're building houses where they were torn down before. We have a varied market. It's affordable housing. We market to families, young people. We will have a few homeless residents and some residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I won't go over it all anymore. This is a competitive process. We're applying for low-income housing tax credits, and it's competitive, so the city support will help us get points in the scoring for the tax credits. And I hope we get it. We appreciate very much the city's support.
Thank you. Any questions at this time?
Yes.
Ms. Roden.
Beyond the tax credits, is there any additional ways to support, particularly the residential developments, whether it be like the sewer hookups or sidewalks? I know that was stuff that came in kind of on the later side of your previous project, and I'm just wondering if that had been looked at.
We're looking into off-site improvements. We need to have $100,000 in off-site improvements within a fourth mile of every single site. So we're working with community investment to figure those out. And we've been talking to the council members about sidewalks, and we'll work on that. We understand the system now.
Okay, so that might be forthcoming, good to know.
Yeah.
And then, would you quickly maybe, how were the locations identified and how were they acquired?
They were...
The residential specifically.
The state has a program called the Blight Elimination Program. So they gave the city money to tear down lots. So if we tear down houses rather. If we get lots that have been in the Blight Elimination Program, we get more points. So we checked those lots out, found the best ones we could, and we're buying those from the NNN and from the Urban Enterprise Association. So that's how, and they were all in the tax sale before the houses were torn down, which we get points for that too.
And I guess last question, and maybe this is for Department of Investment staff. In terms of perhaps integrating, we've heard about a number of different projects with AmeriCorps and, so is there a way to integrate kind of for the balance of a given block so we get some synergy and, collectively across the given block aside? Because I looked at your, your distribution of your properties, and I think all of your site selection, there's one in a given block, with the exception of 2 homes within one. So I'm just wondering, is there any dovetailing here or collaboration across the other opportunities that we have funded or are looking to support as a council and as a city?
Well, once we get funding, we'll have a meeting with the people in the neighborhood and let them know what's going on. And one man, I was taking pictures, and he came out, "What are you doing?" And he wanted the lot, and I said, "Well, sorry, we need to use it." But he wanted an owner-occupied rehab grant, which you look at his house, and he could use it. So I think we should try to coordinate with the owner-occupied rehab. What do they call it? Home improvement, something or other. And maybe coordinate with the sidewalks if there's enough money, so that people don't feel like they don't get anything.
Okay, any other questions?
Comments later?
Nope, comments later. And we will do. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1829 or 1830, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1829 and 1830 or 1830, please come to the podium. And please specify one or the other.
Jason Benicki Critchlow, 3822 West 4th Street. More specifically 1829, but in general both. Over the years, no one's ever advocated for low-income housing more than me. However, what makes me apprehensive about this is both the involvement from the nonprofit entity that was also responsible for the Triangle neighborhood, that was supposed to do mixed-income housing there, and got tax abatements if you drive through there. If you consider mixed-income housing starting at $500,000 and going up, maybe that's where it's at, because there's no low-income housing after they, basically evicted all those low-income housing people out of there to acquire those lots. So that makes me a little apprehensive. It's also, as we're dealing with violence increasing in this city, it also worries me that we continue to put all of our low-income housing west of Lafayette Street. When you concentrate poverty like we continue to do, it has a tendency to correlate to increased violence. So, there are lots, east of downtown where we could build low-income housing as well and kind of disperse into these mixed-income pockets that we all know would be beneficial. So to me, I'm always apprehensive when we keep just building clusters of more and more concentrated poverty, and particularly when we're giving tax abatements to an organization that time and again hasn't fulfilled all the obligations of the tax abatements they've gotten in the past. So it just makes me apprehensive. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak against?
Sheriff Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. I'm talking about more of the 29, but I just don't see how you can build 14 houses over $3 million worth, which I think somebody said come out to $270,000 for each house, and put low-income people in there. The math doesn't work. I couldn't afford a $270,000 house, and I'm middle income, so I don't see how this works. The math just isn't there. Who's going to subsidize the rest of this house if you're putting poverty-level people in there? Or if you can't put poverty-level people in there, which, knowing that neighborhood like I do, you're not going to get your Notre Dame professors living in these $270,000 houses, because they're going to the Triangle where they're safe, because crime is so rampant in that area.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against? Seeing none, Ms. Mannix, you have a 5-minute rebuttal to respond to any of the questions against.
I can't speak about South Bend Heritage Foundation and the Triangle. This is affordable rental housing, and if we do not lease to low-income people that meet the income requirements, we will lose our tax credits in default and owe millions of dollars to our investors. So we have the City of South Bend commitments. We also have federal tax commitments. So we can't default and lease to high-income people here. And this is basically a cooperative, so people pay monthly payments. So you don't have to buy a $270,000 house to live here. And how you can make the numbers work, we're applying for tax credits, so we're getting investments, equity investments of $11.9 million. So the whole project costs $13 million. $11 million is an investor who we don't have to pay back. So we don't have to borrow much money to make this work. So that's how we can afford to put low-income people here. And finally, I want to say the income limits for about a family of 6, there may be $50,000, and for a family of 2, they're like 14, between 14 and 20,000, depending on what the income limit. So you think of low income, we're not leasing to people that are destitute. These are people that work, that have jobs, that don't make a lot of money for the most part. We have some seniors and a few people that don't work in our existing homes. So I don't think the traditional low income stereotype applies to these homes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comment from council? We'll start with the 2nd District.
I just want to stand in strong support of this project. As I mentioned in committee, this is something we've actually been working towards for the last at least year, very actively. With regards to our specific goal as a city of development without displacement, to the point and the question of why are we concentrating low income in one area? Knowing this neighborhood as I do, having grown up here and living there right now, what we've noticed is between the West Side Main Streets plan and the assets that are currently in the neighborhood, including Kennedy Academy and LaSalle Academy, this is a neighborhood that is ripe for gentrification. And so it has been my personal goal, and this is a step towards that, to make sure that we secure certain parcels for low to moderate income. And as Ann mentioned, this isn't for necessarily the folks who have like below the federal poverty line, but this is that missing middle, the working poor that we talk about, that there really isn't the support through federal programs, traditional federal programs. So this is that public-private kind of partnership stuff that really hits at the people who've been working hard, those legacy residents, to say, you know what, we want an investment in our neighborhood. We want to be able to move and have decent housing that we can move into, beautiful, safe, affordable housing, right in those same neighborhoods that we have lived for generations. We don't want to move. And so I'm very excited about this project. Again, for another reason, the way that this is working out, the investments, she talked about the improvement. I think Joe may have asked a question about when you're putting these houses in the residential areas on those different streets. as was mentioned by the presenter, we have to put in, there needs to be $100,000 of development dollars that go in to improve the entire area. So when you look at, are the streets being paved because of this development? Are sidewalks being put in because of this development? It doesn't just help that new construction that goes in, it helps everybody in that neighborhood. And rest assured, we have been having these conversations with the people in the Lana area and the Kennedy Park area for over the last year and a half. And they're very excited about this. And it's really stemming the engagement for all residents to know that this investment is happening, because it doesn't just happen to the one new construction, it's happening to all of those areas around. And when you talk about all these home repair grants and the dollars we have put in through community investment in the budget for this year, and then we see for coming years with these grants, those are going towards a targeted pilot on the west side to do exactly what you're talking about, the things you're concerned about in terms of when we put in a new house here, what's going to happen to those homes, for those legacy residents, the people that have been there forever that still own their homes. They're getting dollars targeted to them to make sure that their home values, their homes increase in value, that their homes are actually improved right alongside of those brand new construction that's coming in. So trust and believe, that area all around Lincoln Way is going to get lots of new residents coming in, high-end people who want the West Side Main Street Plan, for example, talks about if you move, they're going to do incentives, that if you move within the area of the academies, that your children will have priority to going to the academies. So understand gentrification. Understand how it's happening all over the country. And you need to recognize that these programs are our answer to making sure that we don't fall by the wayside like these other communities. So we're making sure that we proceed with development that does not displace residents, that in fact empower residents to engage. And trust and believe, the Lana neighborhood, the Far Northwest neighborhood, the Kennedy Park neighborhood, and the residents on the lake are some of the most engaged and committed residents in this city. And you will see them and you will hear from them, and they are not going to allow the things that you're concerned about. We're not going to let that happen. And this is one step in that direction to make sure that we stay in these neighborhoods. So I just want to say thank you to the developers that are coming this way. I want to say thank you in advance to the council for supporting this, because if I'm going to give tax abatements, I want to give it to residential tax abatements. I want to give it to the people who live here already, and to ensure that the people who live in those neighborhoods now get to stay there throughout this magnificent development that's coming to the west side. So thank you so much, and I encourage your support of this tax abatement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Ms. Gordon?
I think we have a proven developer here, and with a proven history of smart partnerships and collaborative work. I particularly like the accommodations embedded within this for housing for some of our homeless population and developmentally disabled. I particularly respect that, and I know it helps your petition, but it is so needed, and will help us as a community. So you have consistently, with your partners that you've brought to the table on past projects, you have always and have kept that in mind, and I'm most appreciative of that. I do want to make sure that if there is any way that we can strengthen your application by rounding out, by rounding it out with some of these other programs in a real tangible way, a real, sign on the dotted line, put it in the proposal. If there is going to be investments for streets, from individual or street sidewalks, curbs, from Board of Public Works, from our council allocations, whatever. I think, we will all benefit if we strengthen your petition with some real commitments behind it. So I would, to borrow a phrase from the mayor, go back and sharpen pencils and sharpen wits, and just let's see if we can actually formalize that. And maybe it's in there and spoken about broadly, but I think I would be one of many members on this council that would wholeheartedly, support budget items related to a project such as this. Because of your proven record and because you've hit a lot of marks, if you would, for us as a city and things that we've been looking at.
Any other comments?
Make a motion to adopt 1829.
Second.
Question? I have one more comment. Can I just say real quick, super quick?
Very quick.
Okay, real quick.
Hold on, just so we're doing this correctly, I'm going to make a motion on 1829. It's already been seconded. We need to vote on this.
Sure.
I will wait until I make a motion on 1830.
Motion. Okay. All right. There's a motion and a second on 1829. Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember Furley?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Furley?
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Ms. Preston.
There was one other point that I neglected to make that I think is really important we want to get on the record. Through the process of developing this project, I wanted to note that the developer actually spent specific dollars to hire someone to research and connect with minority contractors because of her commitment to make sure that as this development goes in, that we're actually utilizing contractors who are from the neighborhoods, who are minority contractors, most specifically African-American contractors. And I just want to thank her for that and make sure that it's on record that that has been a concerted effort. That's one of the huge targets that we have tried to hit as the city of South Bend. And so that's another reason I'm supporting this. And again, ask for your support as well.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to adopt 1830.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Sorry,
I was kind of timid. I couldn't hear.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy?
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka?
I think you skipped
I'm sorry, I skipped. Councilmember Berman?
Aye. Still?
Yes, thank you. Teschka and Gordy?
Aye.
Councilmember
Hang on a minute. You didn't get Teschka.
Aye. Aye.
I don't know if it's me or my sheet. Okay, do I have Gordy yet?
Vote is 11-0.
Yes.
All right. Councilmember Curley
Aye.
and President Scott.
Aye. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
Say aye. Aye. You started with me.
Go back to...
All right, I'm just doubling back. I had it checked off.
You checked, yeah.
I'm just doubling back. Okay.
All right. It's been a fun night.
All right. I assume they were both going together at one time. So
Thank you.
for a second.
And resolutions are complete. We'll move on to first readings. Ms. Fowler, would you please give reading to 3118?
3118, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending 13-75.506 of the Chapter 13, Article 5 of the South Bend Municipal Code pertaining to disorderly housing and prohibiting dealing in marijuana, hashes, synthetic drugs, and synthetic drug lookalike substances.
I move that 3118 be sent to the Health and Public Safety Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on July 23rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Ms. Fowler, 3218, please.
3218, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending ordinance number 10546-17 by adding new salaries and wages positions to the ordinance fixing maximum salaries and wages of the appointed officers and non-bargaining employees of the City of South Bend for calendar year 2018.
I move that 3218 be sent to the Personnel and Finance Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on July 23rd.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. There's no unfinished business. We'll turn to new business. I have new business. I would like everybody to wish a happy birthday, 29th year, for a faithful citizen member, Sharon Bedicki. Happy 29th, Sharon. Is there any other new business? None. Seeing none. We will turn to the privilege of the floor. At this point, privilege of the floor, this is where individuals who wish to address the council must state their name and address, residential address. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes only. The maximum time limit for this portion shall be 30 minutes. Individuals may address issues only the city has jurisdiction. Individuals shall not be permitted to address topics which the council has heard and previously on this agenda. Council President may assign topics raised by individuals during the privilege of the floor to appropriate council members and request city clerk to contact members of city administration to review and comment. All topics are assigned and shall be responded to a regularly scheduled council meeting. Mr. Davis, you know the routine. You have 3 minutes. Gavin Furley.
Is my 3 minutes over already?
We're adjourned. Gavin Furlick will give you an exit warning and record your time. Name and address, sir.
Absolutely. Henry Davis Jr., 5117 Ottawa Drive, South Bend, Indiana, 46619. Council members, would like to say good evening and thank you again for the opportunity to come before you. I'm going to do the best I can in the 3 minutes that I do have. I want to make sure that we understand that I'm the president of the LaSalle Park Neighborhood Alliance. We're here today to present to you an agenda that was adopted by the Neighborhood Alliance. And I would like for the members that are here present to either raise their hand or stand in support of why we're here. We've went on a process for about the better part of 6 months in trying to develop some type of action goals and plans for the neighborhood association within our given area. Within that given time, we were able to meet with several city employees and also city elected officials. In some cases, we were able to get some information that we actually desired. In some cases, we didn't. Just part of the process. Well, throughout the entire process, we were able to mark down different things that we felt like that were important to us as it relates to how we need to develop as a community within our given area. I think it's awesome that you have people who are seniors that are still organized and also engaged and participating in such a process. Not only that they are participating in such a process, some of them did show up tonight and to support what we're talking about. So I want to make sure that you understand that we actually are serious. Many of these folks are voters. They do vote. They're tax-paying citizens. That is not to push a point of pressure on you, but to make sure that you understand that these folks are citizens and they want a little bit more out of their elected officials. So what I want to do for you right now is read off to you what I just sent to you, your email, so please check your emails. Jake, I do not have your email address, so I think I did send one to Karima. If I didn't, I will resend it so that you can get it later on in your reading, or when we adjourn out, make sure I get it to you. Charles, the LaSalle Park Neighborhood Alliance Agenda 2018. Number one, we want to have access and be a part of the programming ideas at Charles Black Center. Everyone wants to talk about how the crime is going on in our youth. We want to be in a seat, in a position to help create programming. Programming that we've discussed and talked about is how do we impact our youth in a positive way by creating ideas.
30 seconds.
How many?
30.
Careers. So within that career idea path, we want to talk about trades. We want to talk about using hands. We want to talk about what it looks like being an adult. So we want to be at the table when we're talking about program within the Charles Black Center. Number 2 is infrastructure and smart street completion on between Falcon and Kentucky Street. Number 3, plan that creates open store fronts to business owners. More importantly, we're talking about people of color, black business owners. Number 4, curb and sidewalk program currently on the list. Yes, sir. And number 5, abatement program for homes that are for reinvestment. I'm going to yield the rest of my time. Hopefully, we'll be back here again. So,
Thank you, Mr. Davis. We typically don't comment. I will comment. I will be talking to the chair of the Residential Neighborhoods Committee in Alkena Aldrich on this to follow up with you guys, okay?
Before you finish, we got 2 or 3 more coming up behind me, so
that's fine.
We'll get to that.
They get 3 minutes. Yep.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Thank you. Next, name and address, please.
My name is Dennis Plum, 302 South Chicago Street. I have resided in the South Park area for over 45 years, and I have had the opportunity to see the positive and the negative growth of that area. I used to be one of a resident that didn't care about the welfare of our community as some of our pioneering older generation had. But since many of them have gone off the scene, there has begun a declining in the overall condition of our streets, our sidewalks, curbs, and the growing of unkept vacant lots and alleyways, along with numbers of vacant and dilapidated homes. We have been lobbying, if I can use that word or that term, for the recognition of the city of South Bend, the mayor, and the county council to not only hear the demands of our neighborhood, that we be counted as worthy as any other neighborhood district to be able to see improvements in our area as well. I have just 2 questions for you, this panel, as well-needed concerns, and that is, how can you take money that has been counted for our neighborhood and put it in a section that is, or originally LaSalle Park District, and then change that name to the West Side? Number 2, how can you place a resource center in the section where the original LaSalle Park Neighborhood Center used to reside and call it the West Side Resource Center without even having any of the neighbors or those of us that represent our neighborhood to be on the panel of the process and the planning of such a facility? We as a neighborhood, we're tired of promises, and we've come to the point where we are demanding equal recognition and the same equality as everyone else. I want to give recognition to Councilperson White for being at some of our meetings and listening to our concerns. And my other question is to some of the other 2 council members at large. We have put out requests for you to come, but you have refused to come to our area and sit down with us and listen to our concerns. And we want to know, when is that going to be such a time?
You have 30 seconds.
And when would that be such a time? Because all neighborhoods in the city of South Bend are the same. South Bend is not recognized by the downtown building up. The infrastructures where people live is what makes up South Bend. And we'd like for you to have more concern for those that are in the demographic area of where we are at, which resides mostly African Americans.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address, please.
My name is George Jones. I live at 256 North Sheridan Street. I've been a lifetime resident of South Bend. And I come with 3 basic concerns. My first concern is dealing with the LaSalle Park Charles Black Center in the surrounding area. My concern is basically items. First of all, a gazebo, another gazebo need to be placed out there. So I'm going to list these things for you. In addition to that, the playground equipment is too far inward. They need to be out more so towards the Falcon Street, so that the people in the apartments can watch their kids as they play on the playground equipment. The upgrade of the shelter on the corner of Linden and Falcon Street needs to be redone. It's been blighted for some time now. Nobody's done anything to take care of that. Also, I propose that there be a sidewalk, if at all feasible, on the Linden Street, because a lot of kids go back and forth, coming past my house, going down Linden, past the park, getting to Washington High School. It seems to be a great disparity when you talk about the centers all over the community, particularly when you think about Charles Beck and Martin Luther King Center compared to the other centers that are located in our community. My second concern is the infrastructure. When you talk about the infrastructure, you talk about people coming into our city, and you have one of the main corridors out there on the west side of town. When you come down Western Avenue and you look at the street, you look at the island in the middle of the street on the corner of Lombardi and Western, it's deteriorating. Weeds are growing through there. You know, as I drive down Western and I look at what the city has done, and I think about where they stopped and where it continues on, you know, I applaud the mayor that he has done a little bit there. You know, he gave us a little crumbs. But the thing is that we need additional opportunities to improve our community. He has people that are working there, but they stop at a certain area. I look at the streets, I look at the curb. Curb appeal is critical when you think about people coming into our community and they see grass growing all in the cracks and everything. I said, this would be an easy remedy. Just have someone employed that they can spray those weeds along the curb. Simple. My last thing... You have 30 seconds. 30 seconds? Oh. Business. Business is not maintaining their property themselves, okay? You think a business would adhere to the curbs and the appeal of their business. And then you talk about the vacant lots. I just heard her speaking about the far west side and the housing program they're trying to implement. But until you get that point, I can't understand why the city didn't appropriate some type of money so they could have those vacant lots attended to. It's certainly undemanded, as you can see, because the grass is flourishing and they're not getting cut.
Sir, your time is up.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening.
Next name and address.
Hi, yes, my name is Jerry Donaldson. I'm a citizen of South Bend.
Your address, sir?
1126 West Jefferson.
Thank you.
I listened to all of the people who sat here, and I listened to the voice, and I listened to the passion and the compassion of those who are speaking. This is the city of South Bend. And the city of South Bend, though you have blight over here and you're excellent over here, it's just like your physical body. If your physical body is doing well in 2/3 of your body and 1/3 of your body is disease, your whole body is disease. And so based upon what I'm hearing about the people on the west end of South Bend is that the west end of South Bend is disease. You talk about allocating monies and putting them in, say, the Triangle and other places like that. If any area of the city of South Bend is blighted, all of the city of South Bend is blighted, because anybody who come into this city, they come into the city of South Bend, not parts of the city of South Bend. The city of South Bend is the city of South Bend. Let's do right by the city of South Bend. Thank you.
Thank you. Next name and address.
My name is Bob Davidson, and I live on 1337 North Wilbur Street, South Bend. It's on the west side. I'd like to address today, I've lived in my home for 35 years. The city code, I've had the city code come out 2 or 3 times, and every time they always tell me, our hands are tied, we can't do this, we can't do that. Then my neighbor has 3 cars in the backyard. The city code says as long as they're drivable, there's nothing they can do. Mishawaka city code says you have to have up-to-date license plates. Elkhart says you have to have up-to-date license plates. It's working perfect. They have eliminated thousands of cars from backyards. South Bend has, I've seen hundreds of cars parked in backyards, and as long as they're drivable, the city code says there's nothing they can do. So I think if you could help the city code update and change the rulings about, it says now that they have on private property. It's got to be on, private, it's on public property. It has to be on private property about the license plates. So if the city code could change and put license plates on the cars, then they could eliminate all these junk cars. Even though they're drivable, they still can't do nothing. So I think the city council would talk to the ordinance people and try to get them to change the bylaws and put license plates on the cars. That would eliminate a lot of old cars. And it also would help the west side become a cleaner, neater west side part of the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Jason Bedicki, Critchlow, 3822 West 4th Street. It seems like a couple years ago, we were sitting here and the zoo came to us and wanted a food and beverage tax. And they went to all of the taxing agencies and were kind of resoundingly told no. And then I read a couple months ago or so that now we're talking about juggling TIF districts to include the zoo in the TIF. A few years prior to asking for the food and beverage tax money, they had asked out of being part of the City of South Bend budget process. The park board thought they could do better on their own. Then how come every time we turn around now, they seem to be trying to stick their hands back into our tax coffers? First through adding a new tax, which is something we don't need any more of in this county, and now this time by going for new property tax revenue instead of allowing it to go to the general fund, into our schools that desperately need it. If the people at Potawatomi Zoo Board think they can do better on their own, let them, and let's not include them in a new TIF district. We already have the most TIF districts of any county in this state, of any city in this state. We don't need to be expanding them, we don't need to add them more, and we sure don't need to add one for a pet project at the zoo who decided years ago they were better off without our money, and now all of a sudden they want to spend $50 million of our money, no questions asked.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Sharon Bedicki, 3822 4th Street. My first question, sorry guys, Dr. Werner took care of it before I got up here. I guess it was his parting gift to me. But what this gentleman said about the unlicensed cars, I have the other problem where if I call the police out because the cars are on the street with expired plates, the police just go, hey, move it on your driveway. Code says there's nothing they can do, even though they're not drivable because they're on private property. They park them so that the front end's facing out, they can't see the expired plates, then they wait till nobody's around, then they're driving them, and they take them back out on the street, and it's just a vicious back and forth game with these cars. I've called for a trailer that had no plates, no lights, no nothing, and again, the police come out, tell the dude, hey, you need to put it on your yard. I call code says there's nothing we can do, it's on his yard. Right now, he's got 4 dead vehicles stacked up in his driveway, and it just gets worse and worse. So something needs to be done with these vehicles and cars, and the code and police department need to work together to get it to go. My other main concern is I've talked to a couple police officers, but I have what you would call a rolling drug dealer corner. They pull up on one corner, park, they come from another way, park, they get out of their cars, they swap vehicles, they're there for 30 seconds, then they get back in their original cars and take off. I've made the police aware of it, talked to an officer today, he goes, yeah, we know about your corner, and then there's this other house that we know about. And I said, yeah, I'm aware of that house too, that one has curbside service. And if you get there on drug day, then you're stuck in traffic as they just stand on the street and deal their drugs as you pull your car up, and it just goes through. The police know about it, but they continue to be very active. So I don't know what can be done. Something needs to be done before, more innocent people get hurt. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next, name and address. These will be the last 2. Sir, you can fill that out after if you want.
My name is Marvin Creighton, and I reside at 305 South Lake Street, South Bend, Indiana. And I, too, am a member of the Self Parks Neighborhood Alliance. And these requests, I mean, we request that our concerns be continued on to a subcommittee.
We will. All right, thank you, sir. Last one, anyone? That will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
So can you sign this to residential? Okay.
Is that okay?
No problem.
Wait a minute.